Okay, imagine this. Just imagine for a second. We're living our lives, right? Doing our jobs, worrying about bills, watching the news. And then it happens. Someone, somewhere, finds something truly mind bending. They find what people call the source code of the universe. Now, what does that even mean? It doesn't mean a computer program written in C++ or Python. Not like that. It means the fundamental rules, the actual instructions, the deep, deep structure that makes everything exist. Gravity, light, time itself, all of it. The blueprint, the recipe, the very instructions for reality. Think about it. We've always searched for a grand unified theory. Scientists have been chipping away at it for centuries, trying to find one elegant equation that explains everything. This would be that. But more, it wouldn't just be an equation, it would be the complete raw data, the actual code. How would we find it? That's a tough question. Maybe a new particle accelerator, much bigger than anything we have now, smashes particles in a way that reveals a pattern no one expected. Maybe a telescope finds a strange, repeating signal from deep space that isn't just a message, but a data stream. Or maybe, just maybe, some brilliant person, or a team of them, puts together all the pieces of physics and mathematics we already know, and suddenly they see the whole picture. They see the code, they deduce it. Whatever the path, the moment of discovery would be earth-shattering. Imagine the quiet, intense moments. The data streaming in. The first scientist or the first group of them seeing it. The jolt, the disbelief, the cold sweat. Then the impossible realization we actually found it. What happens next? Does it get leaked? Does it become public instantly? Or does some government, some secret organization try to contain it? You know how these things go. People would want to control it. The power would be immense. But how do you keep something like that a secret for long? This isn't just a new weapon. This is bigger than anything. It's the ultimate secret. So, let's say it gets out. Or enough people know about it that it becomes impossible to hide. The news breaks. The world stops. Every news channel, every website, every conversation, it would be about this. The code. The universe's code. The first challenge, of course, would be understanding it. This isn't a human language, it's the language of existence. We need to build new kinds of computers, new kinds of algorithms, new kinds of minds even, to even begin to translate it. It would be like having a complete instruction manual for a universe, but it's written in a language no one has ever seen before, made of symbols and concepts we don't yet have words for. But let's assume, for a moment, we figure it out. We find the Rosetta Stone, we start to interpret it. What do we learn first? We learn the exact rules of physics, not just what we observe, but why. The precise values of every constant, the true nature of dark matter and dark energy, the exact moment of the Big Bang, and what happened before it, if anything. We'd understand how gravity really works, not just that it pulls things. We'd see the fundamental particles not just as tiny bits, but as structured information. And with that understanding, the world would change instantly. Energy. We'd solve the energy crisis overnight. If you know the code, you know how to manipulate energy at its most fundamental level. Fusion power, child's play. We could tap into the zero-point energy of space, or generate matter-antimatter reactions safely, or even create energy from nothing, if the code allows it. Free, clean, limitless energy for everyone. Imagine that. No more fighting over oil. No more climate change worries from power generation. The planet would sigh in relief. Medicine. Every disease, every genetic flaw, every age-related decay, it would all become understandable. We see the code of a healthy cell, the code of a cancerous cell, the code of a virus. We could rewrite the code for disease. Genetic engineering would go beyond anything we can currently imagine. Not just fixing errors, but perfecting the human body, extending life, eradicating suffering. Death itself might become optional, or at least a choice, not an inevitability. Technology. New materials, stronger than steel, lighter than air. Materials that can change their properties on command. Faster than light travel might become possible, not just theoretical. If the code says it can be done, we'd know how. We could bend space, manipulate time, maybe not travel through it like in movies, but perhaps influence its flow in small ways, or understand its true nature. Building things would be trivial, we could construct anything we want, molecule by molecule, with perfect precision. The universe itself would become our playground. We could build megastructures in space with ease. Terraform planets, create entirely new ecosystems. We could explore the cosmos in ways we can't even dream of now, going to distant galaxies not in thousands of years, but in days or hours. But this is where it gets really heavy. This is where the simple answers stop, because with that kind of power come the most profound questions. What does this say about creation? Is there a God? If we find the source code, does it imply a programmer? Or does it show that the universe is just a beautiful, self-organizing algorithm, a cosmic machine that runs on its own? This knowledge would challenge every religion, every philosophy, every belief system. Some people would find their faith strengthened, seeing the divine hand and the elegant complexity of the code. Others would lose their faith entirely, seeing only mechanics, and some would find entirely new ways to understand spirituality. Then there's the question of purpose. What is our purpose if we suddenly understand everything? If all the mysteries are laid bare, does life still have meaning when you know how all the magic tricks are done? We seek, we strive, we search. That's a huge part of what it means to be human. If the search ends, what do we do with ourselves? Do we become bored, apathetic, or do we find new purposes, new mysteries to create, new ways to explore the code itself? And the biggest question of all, should we change it? If we have the code, we have the power to rewrite reality, to alter the fundamental laws. What if we don't like gravity? Could we tweak it? What if we want to add a new fundamental force? What if we want to change the speed of light? The potential for disaster is huge. Imagine a bug in the code. A simple typo, but at the universal level. Could we accidentally unmake reality? Could we create a paradox that rips apart the fabric of space-time? The responsibility would be crushing. It would be the ultimate don't touch that button scenario, but the button controls everything. Who gets to decide? This is a huge, huge problem. We can't trust one person with this, or one country, or one group. The world is too divided. There would be immediate, intense global conflict over control of the code. The wars would erupt, not over resources, but over the ultimate power everyone would want to say. Everyone would want to protect it or exploit it. We'd need a global council, but even that is hard to imagine working. Who would sit on it? How would they be chosen? What would their mandate be? They'd be making decisions that affect not just humanity, but potentially the entire cosmos. And what about free will? If the universe is code, does that mean everything is predetermined? Does it mean our choices, our thoughts, our feelings are just lines of code playing out? This would be a profound existential crisis. If we're just characters in a program, what does that make us? What does that make our lives? Does it mean love isn't real, just a chemical reaction coded into us? Does it mean suffering is just an error in the simulation? This could lead to deep despair for many. Or maybe understanding the code would show us that free will is an emergent property, a complex interaction that still gives us agency. We wouldn't know until we saw the code. The social impact would be monumental. Politics would be overturned. The current power structures would become obsolete. If everyone has access to unlimited energy and resources, what do governments even do? What do armies fight for? The entire global economy would collapse and reform into something completely new. Money might become meaningless. Labor might become optional. Religion would undergo its biggest test. Some faiths might break apart, others might adapt, finding new interpretations, new spiritual movements would emerge, perhaps focusing on the wonder of the code, or on our new role as custodians of reality. Education would change drastically. We'd be studying the code, learning the true nature of everything. Science would become the ultimate discipline. But what about art? What about humanities? Would they still matter? Yes, they would, maybe even more so, because understanding the code is one thing. Understanding us, the beings who found it, the beings who have to live with it, that's another thing entirely. Art, philosophy, literature, these would be the tools we use to process the greatest discovery in history. Imagine a world without scarcity, no hunger, no poverty, no lack of shelter. What do people do with their time? Do we become complacent? Do we become lazy? Or do we turn our incredible minds to new frontiers? To creating beauty, exploring ideas, building new kinds of societies. The very definition of human endeavor would change. There's also the risk of losing our humanity. If we can reshape ourselves, perfect ourselves, become immortal, does that make us less human? Do we lose the struggles, the flaws, the very things that define us? What if some people choose not to change? What if some want to stay natural and others become something else entirely? A new kind of species division, not based on race or creed, but on adherence to the original code or a modified one. And what about privacy? If we understand the code, could we also understand the code of every individual mind? Could we read thoughts, manipulate emotions? The ultimate surveillance state would be possible. Control would be absolute. This is a terrifying prospect. We'd have to build in safeguards, ethical frameworks, and protections that are stronger than anything we have now. The sense of wonder. Would it vanish, or would it just shift? Instead of wondering how the universe works, we'd wonder what else we can make it do. He would move from being discoverers to being creators ourselves. We would become the architects of new realities. What if the code reveals that we are a simulation? That our universe is just one of many programs running on some supercomputer in another higher reality? This would be a shock, a profound one. It would make us question everything even more deeply. Are we just puppets? Is there a programmer out there watching us? What happens if that programmer updates their software or deletes the program? The discovery of the code might not just be about our universe, but about our place in a larger multiverse, or even a cosmic computational hierarchy. If we learn we're a simulation, would we try to break out? To communicate with the base reality? To understand our creators, or will we try to take control of our own simulation, becoming the gods of our own little corner of existence? And what if the code shows no sign of a creator, no intelligent design, just complex, beautiful, self-generating rules? A cosmic accident, but an incredibly intricate and powerful one. That would be just as profound. It would mean we truly are alone in figuring things out, in making meaning. It would put the weight of the universe squarely on our shoulders. The long-term future. Once we master the code, what do? We create new universes. Not just simulate them, but literally bring them into being. We could experiment with different physical laws, build pocket dimensions, expand our existence beyond our wildest dreams. We could become incredibly advanced beyond what we consider human today. Our descendants might be beings who can manipulate reality with a thought, who can travel through the cosmos instantly, who can live for eons, and who understand the universe not as a mystery, but as a language they speak fluently. But even with all that power, the core human questions would remain. What makes us happy? What is love? What is kindness? What is beautiful? The code might tell us how emotions work, but it wouldn't tell us what they mean. That would still be up to us, our subjective experience, our consciousness, and this leads to one final, huge, scary thought. What if the source code contains a self-destruct sequence? What if it reveals that our universe is temporary, designed to end at a certain point? Or that there's a flaw, an inherent instability that we can't fix, even with the code? That would be the ultimate test of humanity facing an unavoidable end, even with all the power in the universe. Could we accept it? Could we find peace? Or what if the code contains a message? A directive from a previous civilization that evolved to this point and then left instructions. What would that message say? Would it tell us to transcend, to protect life, to continue the chain? The act of finding the source code of the universe is not just a scientific discovery. It's a fundamental change to what it means to be human. It's a transition from being inhabitants of a universe to being its potential architects. It's the ultimate responsibility. We would have to mature as a species incredibly quickly. The petty squabbles, the nationalistic rivalries, the greed, these things would become dangerous to the extreme. If we can't manage our own human nature, then giving us control over the universe's code would be like giving a child a loaded gun that can reshape reality. So, maybe the first thing we do after the initial shock and the scramble for understanding is simply pause, take a collective breath, and realize the immense gravity of what we've found. We'd have to develop a universal ethic, a code of conduct for operating the universe's code. We'd need deep philosophical discussions involving everyone from every culture, every background. We'd need to consider what it means to be good, to be responsible, to be wise on a cosmic scale. And perhaps, just perhaps, this ultimate discovery would force us to finally come together, to realize that our differences are trivial compared to the shared destiny we now face. The destiny of being the custodians, or perhaps even the co-creators, of everything. It would be the biggest story ever. It would change every single thing about how we live, how we think, how we see ourselves. It would be scary, it would be amazing, and it would redefine humanity forever. The universe would suddenly make sense, but our place in it would become more complex than ever before. And we would become gods, yes, but gods burdened with the ultimate truth and the ultimate choice. The choice of what to do with everything.